Have you ever looked at really successful people and wondered what's their secret? What's the one thing that truly separates the highest achievers from everybody else? Well, it's probably not what you think. Today we're diving into Angela Duckworth's incredible book, Grit. We're going to break down what it is, why it matters so much more than talent, and how you can get more of it. So let's just start with this big question. What is the single greatest predictor of success? Is it your IQ, social skills, being good looking, just pure, raw, natural ability? For decades, we've kind of been sold this idea that talent is king. But what if that's not the whole story? Not even close. Okay, let me tell you a quick story about a student named David Luong. This comes from when Angela Duckworth was actually a math teacher. David, based on his placement exams, was put in her regular algebra class, not the fancy accelerated one. The verdict was pretty clear. He just wasn't a natural at math. But David, he didn't let that label define him. So, you fast forward a few years, and you get Dr. David Luong, who holds a PhD in mechanical engineering and, get this, works at the Aerospace Corporation. The kid who supposedly wasn't ready for advanced math became a literal rocket scientist. So, what happened? David's story is the perfect example of how our first impressions about talent can be completely, totally wrong. And this gets to the heart of a huge cultural problem, the talent myth. We are obsessed with this idea of innate genius, right? And that belief, it shapes everything. How we hire, how we teach, how we parent, and a lot of the time, the results are just disastrous. You can see this obsession playing out in a massive way in the corporate world. You had these consultants at McKinsey who started this whole war for talent, saying companies just need to hire A players. Then you have a company like Enron, which took that idea to a crazy extreme with their rank and yank system. They would literally fire the bottom 15% of employees every single year. And what was the result? A toxic, cutthroat culture that led to one of the biggest corporate flameouts in history. So, if talent isn't the magic bullet we thought it was, then what is? Well, all of Duckworth's research points to a much more powerful, much more reliable predictor of success in the long run, and it's a quality she calls grit. So what on earth is grit? Duckworth defines it as a blend of two key things. First, you've got passion. And we're not talking about a fleeting interest, but a really deep, enduring fascination with what you do. And second, you've got perseverance. That's the resilience to keep working hard, to get back up after you get knocked down day after day after day. In one word, it's stamina. Duckworth actually breaks this down with two super simple equations. The first one is talent times effort equals skill. So your natural ability only turns into a real usable skill when you put in the work. But that's not where the story ends. The second equation is that skill, when you multiply it by even more effort, leads to achievement. Did you catch that? The crucial thing here is that effort shows up in both equations. Effort turns your talent into skill, and then effort turns that skill into real-world achievement. In other words, effort counts twice. It's way, way more important than just talent alone when it comes to what you actually accomplish in life. And hey, this isn't some brand new idea. Even Charles Darwin, one of the greatest scientific minds ever, totally believed this. He didn't see himself as some kind of genius. He actually called himself a plodder who just succeeded through pure determination. He was convinced that the real difference between people wasn't intellect. It was zeal and hard work. All right, so if grit is this important, how do we get more of it? Well, it's fueled by two really important ingredients, passion and purpose. And you know what? We need to completely rethink what we mean by passion.
A lot of us think of passion as a firework, right? This sudden, intense, brilliant explosion of interest. But Duckworth argues that real, sustainable passion, it's much more like a compass. It doesn't just show up in a flash. It takes time to build, to calibrate. It doesn't fizzle out. It gives you a steady direction over a very long and, let's be honest, often winding journey.
Just look at the story of the journalist Jeff Gettleman. His big passion, his long-term goal, was to live and work in East Africa. He didn't just get there overnight. His path was this long series of deliberate, sometimes grinding, steps, from a student newspaper to an internship in Wisconsin, all the way to becoming the New York Times East Africa bureau chief. That compass of his guided him for over a decade. Now, the second fuel for grit is purpose. And this is the idea that what you do matters to people other than yourself. Purpose is what connects your passion to something bigger. It gives you a really powerful reason to keep going when things get tough. It's the belief that your work is actually in service of others. So how do we actually go about cultivating grit in ourselves? Well, the foundation isn't really about some new action or habit. It's all psychological. It starts with the beliefs you hold about your own abilities.
So let me ask you, and be honest with yourself. Which one of these do you have? This idea comes from the amazing work of psychologist Carol Dweck, and figuring this out is absolutely critical if you want to develop more grit.
See, someone with a fixed mindset believes their abilities are just set in stone. They see a challenge as a risk because if they fail, it might expose their limits. But someone with a growth mindset, they believe their abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. For them, challenges aren't threats, they're opportunities to grow. And guess what? Gritty people almost always have a growth mindset. And here's the best part. The growth mindset is not just some feel-good motivational poster idea. It is a biological fact. Neuroscience has shown us that our brains are incredibly plastic. When you're struggling to learn a new skill, you are literally forging and strengthening new connections between your neurons. Your brain is like a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets. It's that simple. This all brings us to one last and really crucial point. If you want to be truly gritty, you have to fundamentally change your relationship with failure. See, it's not the opposite of success. It's an essential ingredient. The MacArthur Genius Grant winner Ta-Nehisi Coates said it perfectly. He said the real challenge is seeing your own horribleness on the page, all your mistakes, your bad sentences, your shortcomings, and then having the perseverance to wake up the next day, take that horribleness and refine it, make it just a little bit better. That, right there, that is the process of grit. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What's the hard thing you're working on? What challenge are you trying to overcome? And what horribleness, big or small, are you going to choose to wake up and refine tomorrow? Because that is where real achievement is born.